Hello, good morning. My name is Roderick Faison, and today we'll be discussing residential foundations. Two of the most common types of foundations are slab on grade and crawl space. There's also another type of foundation, basements. I won't be discussing basement foundations because they're not generally used in the Hampton Roads area. Um, the crawl space and slab foundations both have pros and cons. Like I said, they're two of the most commonly used foundations, and a lot of times in deciding which one you want to use, you have to consider the particular application, where you're putting the foundation, and also what's important to you. In this presentation, I just want to discuss some of the pros and cons of both foundations, and in the end, just share my personal opinion on which type of foundation works best. Um, you can follow along with me with the PowerPoint that is also provided with this project. The first type of foundation I wanted to discuss is the slab on grade. The slab on grade foundation um, has a couple of major structural components. They are the floor slab itself and either grade beams or foundation walls or footings at the perimeter of the slab. Um, in most cases, additional footings, or in some cases, additional footings are necessary under bearing walls or columns in the center of the slab. Concrete slab on grade floors are generally designed to have sufficient strength to support floor loads without reinforcing when pouring on undisturbed or compacted soil. Sometimes you can use welded wire fabric in concrete with a low water to cement ratio to reduce shrinkage cracking. So basically, a slab on grade foundation is constructed with a thick slab laid directly on grade. Of course, the grade has to be prepared first. You have to have it compacted, and the type of soil is important also. If you don't have the adequate soil, you may have to dig out some of the soil and put in a different type of soil to make sure that soil will support that foundation, make sure it doesn't move and shift, eventually causing unwanted settling and damaging the slab foundation. Um, One thing about a slab foundation is since it's directly on the grade, most of your water pipes and any other type of utility that you want under the house is going to be encased inside of the concrete slab, so you're not going to have access to it in the future. The good thing about that is, as opposed to a crawl space, you won't have the elements affecting the underside of the house. Your pipes won't be prone to freezing because they won't be exposed to weather as in a crawl space. And also, a slab foundation does tend to keep the house warmer because you don't have to deal with the weather effects in the crawl space coming up through the floor, making the house colder. Um, Next, I want to talk about the crawl space foundation. The crawl space um, foundation. The major structural components of a crawl space are the wall and the footing. Crawl space walls are typically constructed of cast in place concrete or concrete masonry units. Place of a structural foundation wall and continuous spread footing, the structure can be supported on piers or piles with beams in between. These beams support These beams between piers support the structure above and transfer the load back to the piers. Now, the advantage with the crawl space foundation, as I said before, you have access under the house, so you can more easily access your plumbing and your ventilation if it's installed under the house. You can go into the house to inspect it. You can easily detect water leaks, and you can also inspect the structure under the house for termite infestation and other pests if you have access to the crawl space. Another thing about a crawl space, in flood prone areas, you can install um, vents that allow water to pass through, so that if you do unfortunately have the misfortune of having a flood, water will flow through the foundation wall instead of running directly against it and possibly causing damage, possibly even washing it away, destroying the entire house. With those vents, the water will flow through and reduce the pressure on the foundation walls, hopefully allowing the structure to stay intact. I think the biggest advantage of the crawl space foundation is the ability to access under the home. No structure is built perfectly, and a lot of times over time you'll have settling. You can have damage to floor piers. Um, you can also have over time your ventilation and plumbing may deteriorate and need to be replaced. So with the crawl space foundation, you can easily have access to it. It can probably be a do-it-yourself job in most instances with plumbing and ventilation. As opposed to with a slab foundation, you'll definitely have to have a professional come in and and probably destroy your floor, because they'll have to go inside that concrete to reach the plumbing in case that needs to be replaced. So, in my opinion, I would prefer a crawl space foundation, just because of that advantage of having access to any of your installed facilities, such as the plumbing and ventilation. Like I said, there are pros and cons to each type of foundation, but inclusion, the crawl space foundation, the advantages seem to outweigh the cons, in my opinion. Again, I have some pictures of both types of foundations. There are a couple of variations of both. With the crawl space, there are a couple of different pictures with that foundation, where you can also have some type of drainage system built inside of it, so that you can reduce the moisture. And that is another thing you do have to worry about with the crawl space foundation. You have to make sure that underground area is conditioned, because you can have a moisture buildup, and that can lead to pest infestation, and it can also lead to mold, which can be a very big problem. You can also have a crawl space foundation that's completely enclosed, and that allows no elements to impact it. But it does have to be conditioned. You do have to have some kind of ventilation in there. If it's not completely enclosed and you have vents, ventilation is allowed to pass through, and that can definitely help control the moisture in the crawl space. I know in my crawl space, I have a vapor barrier installed over the soil, and that kind of controls some of the moisture content. So, I think that about sums up the difference between crawl space and slab on grade foundations. Thank you.